to control the light. That's why we have a lot of Fresnels up here, you'll see, because we have specific areas that we light that we can control how big or small our lights are depending on where they need to be and where they need to light. So this is our most basic light that we can control. The second light, do we have any guesses at what this is called?
Doohickey.
Close, but no. Not actually at all. Any guesses?
It's not an ellipsoidal.
It's not an ellipsoidal. We'll get to those later. Anyway, this is a step up from this one, but not by much. This one is controllable, but in a slightly different way. Actually, did we have any questions on the Fresnel before we move on? I forgot to ask that. Okay. Okay, before I move on though, everybody come back to the Fresnel. These lamps in here, this is a point I cannot stress enough. When you're working with lights, we have some very nice cotton gloves. Do not, repeat, do not change the lamps without gloves, because what happens is these get very hot. Each of our lights gets very hot. You need to plan for them to want to cause fires. It's just sitting here saying, I want to burn the place down. You can't let it, because they will if you let them. These lamps are the same way. They want to explode. Don't let them. So the reason you use these cotton gloves is because the oil on your fingers, if it gets onto the glass, it gets so hot that it will start to boil and it will start to break the glass.
I still have that bulb that has the bump on it.
We looked for it. Where is it?
It's in my room. I took it home.
Bless your soul. Anyway, we
I
have.
didn't want it to get thrown away.
we keep a bulb around that's like really weird, but it looks like a normal bulb, and then it has this like big thing like bubbling out of it, and it's like this demented thing. Anyway, that's what happens when you mistreat bulbs. Like, don't do it. So even though I could say I could just like put my hand in there and just like, don't do it. Like, the thing is, you won't, if you make mistakes like that, you won't know immediately, but in the middle of a show, it might blow, because we've had a couple lights that have blown out. Not in a show necessarily, but when we're just like toying with lights and it's like pop and stuff falls from the ceiling and you're like, oh.
I love it when molten glass falls from the ceiling.
Yeah, don't we all? Anyway, so that's just an important note. This one, this bulb is we use, I think we have, do we have two different types of bulbs, or do we just have the one? I think we just have the one for now.
We just have halogen.
Yeah, well, they're all halogen lamps, but I think at one time we had different sizes. Okay. Anyway, so this is our halogen bulbs, and they have their shapes. We'll give you each a chance to like fondle these, but they're not too big. We have a box of them up in the thing, but make sure that when you take them out, you have we have these little foam packages up there that they go in little boxes. When you take them out, keep them in their packages, keep them in the foam, just to keep them from getting damaged. Even if they're the ones that we're throwing away, don't just let them break out places, because molten glass, shattered glass, it's all the same if I'm wearing socks. Like, just don't do it. Anyway, so they're pretty simple to get in and out of the Fresnel. This one is going to be a little different. Anyway, now I think we do have the two different types of plugs, because the Fresnels have the screw-in top and this one has the plug-in, I think. We have some of the lights that have a plug instead of the screw-in. Okay, so we'll come to that when we do, I guess. So on this one, this light is called a par light. it's very similar with the Fresnel. There's not a lot of differences. It just looks fancier. But let me show you some of the differences. This one, the front does not open. There's nothing to like pull this out. It doesn't open. This one, you get into it from the back. There's a little screw-on knob here that someone has tightened down more than is necessary. Anyway, but
Do we need tools?
we might. Anyway, okay, I've got a wrench over there. Austin, could you grab me a wrench?
We have one.
Yeah, we'll be good.
Thank
you.
you.
Though. Good gracious. Thank you. I'm going to address another thing about tightening things in just a second. Maybe pliers would be better. Anyway, could you grab me some pliers, Mr. Fairbanks? Okay. So while that's happening, I'm gonna let you see something really quickly. These are heavier. So the back of these lights, they operate all in a very similar way. The Fresnels are the only lights that you open from the front. Well, that and scoops, but we don't care about scoops right now. Anyway, so this one you open from the front. Each of these other ones requires you to open it from the back because the ellipsoids just have a bunch of stuff in the way. It wouldn't make sense to open it from the front. But this one has a really cool thing that it's like famous for. This is why we have this and Fresnels. But if you get up close, everybody come up and tell me what's up with the lens here. Anyway, it's like rounded, but it also has some weird pattern on it. The reason this is because when light comes through it, so for the Fresnel, for instance, we have a lens that's shaped like this, and light comes through and it bounces out. It spreads out. And what the Fresnel does is it takes this shape and makes it flat. So instead of being round, we have this part right here, and this part right here, and this part right here. So if we were to take the lens and just stretch out all of the wrinkles, it would look like this, so that it comes and bounces out. This one has a very unique design where I'm not even sure why it's beveled in necessarily, but it's to shape the light. So this lens, instead of just throwing light everywhere, or like the Fresnel, just making a big old circle, this one actually makes like a kind of a rounded, like oval shape. The reason this is important is because there are times when I want to have just a little like Fresnel light, but I don't want a big old circle of light. Specifically, we talked about light. We don't want light to just go everywhere. If you look back here, we have somebody singing and dancing up here. So we have this big old space that needs lit. We need to be able to see their faces. Otherwise, you know, we have a dancing pair of pants and that's all we can see. Not entertaining. Well, I guess it could be, but not what we're trying to see. So we have somebody up here that's singing and dancing. They need their face lit. But if I put a Fresnel on, we've got this like big old halo of light that ends up on the cyc, and people all look, there's some very nice light on the cyc. And they're missing the dancing. So if we have all this light up here, it's very distracting, doesn't help. So what we do is, I don't know that we have, where are they? There's one, we've got one up there, there's another. But we've got a couple of these lights up here specifically designed so that the oval hits right here, so that when I'm up here, the oval comes down, hits the top of my head, and then hits down on the bottom of the cyc where nobody can see, or nobody cares. So we get enough light this way, but not any light this way. Or I can turn it and say I just want a very narrow section lit. Over here on this light, you'll notice on the sides here, so here's the front, But on the sides there are these little places where it lets you turn it, so that when I'm up there, I can see where my globe of light is, and as I turn it, you can rotate it to where you can shape it exactly where you want the light to go. If you don't care about that, just use Fresnel's. But in the cases where you do need to shape the light, these ones are much better suited for it. So now after we loosen this up, I can show you this a little bit. So the housing on these ones is almost identical with the housing on those lights. Those are called ellipsoidal lights, by the way. So it has a little screw in the back, which you kind of have to be careful about because you don't want to drop the lights. That's among the things that we love to do to our lights. Don't let dropping them be one of them. Anyway, so it has, this is all of the light housing. This is just a can. Like, really, we could just have some guy with a plug and he could just stand there like this. But why would you do that? It's boring. Anyway, so all the housing does is shape the light. That's the entire point of the housing. This is